Welcome back to Just Saying. I'm the host, Jessica Donnell, and today we're pulling back the curtain on the world of nursing, the heartbreak, the chaos, the bullying, and the quiet moments of courage that most of us never see. My guest, Jennifer Johnson, has spent over 16 years in emergency rooms across Ontario, navigating everything from life or death trauma to the exhaustion of working through a global pandemic. She's also a wife, a mom of two, and now the author of Nursing Intuition: How to Trust Your Gut, Save Your Sanity, and Survive Your Career. Her book is part memoir, part guide, and part love letter to nurses everywhere who are struggling, burning out, and wondering if they still belong in the profession they once loved. Today, Jennifer is here to share her story, her wisdom, and her rally cry for every nurse who needs to know they are not alone. Let's dive in. Friends, I'm here with nurse Jennifer Johnson. She's an ER nurse and an author, and we're here to discuss her book, Nursing Intuition: How to Trust Your Gut, Save Your Sanity, and Survive Your Career. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Oh my gosh, Jessica, thank you so much for having me.
It's so funny because I was going to tell you this off camera, but okay, so everybody calls me, when I was younger, the teachers would forget my name and call me Jennifer all the time. Did you ever get called Jessica?
I don't. I get all the time, "Oh my gosh, you look so much like my friend so and so." I'm like, "Yes, I am your basic girl. I get it." Yeah.
I'm like the basic blonde girl too, but they'd always get my name mixed up with Jennifer. Jennifer. And I'm like, no, it's
The
not
80s.
Jennifer. Like,
I apologize
am
for
I
the
that
80s.
not giving that much of an impact? Like I'm not that important that you call me something. So I grew up, and in fact, get this, in my high school, I was really good at running. And so the town newspaper, the Appeal Democrat, was doing an article on me because of my running, and I was athlete of the week. And they called, and I told them, I go, my name is Jessica Andrew, no S. I go, don't put an S on the end of my name because that's not my name.
Yeah.
And I go, and don't call me Jennifer because some people do, and it's not my name. And they came out and called me
Jennifer Andrews.
Yeah. And so then the only way people would know it was about me is if my picture was on there. But and then they give me a tiny little retraction, like this wee little thing on page 6 the next day, like this tiny, sorry, we got her name wrong.
Yeah, no big deal. It's only the first time I'm in the paper. Like,
Right.
great.
No shit,
It's
right?
fine.
Okay, so I digress. So you're a nurse. And so I just want to say my sister-in-law she's retiring as a neonatal nurse. And my mother-in-law is a retired nurse. And my brother, oh my God, smack me now. My husband works in a hospital. And oh God, that's crazy.
We're
No,
already off the
my
rails.
husband
It's
works.
great.
Right. No, my husband is a physical therapist in the hospital. So I am akin to you, not only by name, because that's what people used to call me, but I am akin to you by the hospital. And so I'm really excited to have a conversation. I know this is going to be just a fun, relaxed conversation because off camera, you had me cracking up. So I'm excited.
I try. Life's too short. Trust me.
Okay, so let's get a little bit of a backstory on you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you actually became a nurse, and give me all the juicy stuff.
Oh my gosh. Well, back when I was 6 days old, I'm kidding.
Like,
We're gonna go way
good,
back.
I'll go there. I'll
Just
go there.
wait.
People know. People know when I tell the story, my origin story, I say when I was about to get delivered, I legit tell about my delivery where my dad
So
had to
funny.
stop for a black cat that crossed in front of him. And then he turned around and went back home to take the trash cans to the curb. And then by the time they made it to the hospital, my mom's like, I'm ready. And the nurse is all, no, you're fine.
You're fine.
She walks out of the room and she calls him back in and she goes, I'm having this baby. And the nurse opens up and she's like, holy crap. She starts pushing me back in. So I'm just
She's like,
saying,
we're not ready. We're not ready for you yet. It's
like
fine.
my origin story was crazy. Anyways, I'm sorry. But yes, go back. Rewind a little.
Honestly, I never wanted to be a nurse. I never thought about being a nurse. It was never on my radar. I went into university for biology. I did a year. I went into my second year, got halfway through, and the 1 year-long course, it was organic chemistry. I failed the first half. And without finishing that, you couldn't go into the second. And then all of a sudden I'm a year behind. I'm like, what is going on? Like, I can't wrap my head around this. I've never failed anything before. What is going on? And so just kind of like well, crap, what do I do now? And thankfully, a buddy of mine in first year, she was in nursing school, and so we'd go through her textbooks and her Mosby's, which is like your photo encyclopedia of everything that could go wrong, and all these like super gory photos and just like graphic to the nth degree. And I'm like, oh my god, this is what I want to learn about. Like this is cool. And so thankfully was able to swap into nursing. Fun fact, I actually
So you didn't
found
have to
that
take those chemistry courses that they weren't
no,
required for this
they
line of
were
degree?
they were more the biology degree than the
Okay.
nursing
Yeah,
degree. So
biology is no joke, people. I got my master's
no,
degree, but biology was no joke, and neither was anatomy. And I don't know what else. Why did I take those? I think because I thought those would be the easier ones.
it's not.
Um, and then what I struggled was all the math that I had to take. It was hard, but I got past it. But yeah, I mean, so you kind of saw the light, and you're like, well, that sparks some interest, and
Yeah.
you like the blood and guts, right?
I was like, "I think I could do that, that's not a problem." So, swapped into nursing, started out in a very, very rural hospital because I'd met my husband, my, then boyfriend. We moved in together and their hospital was looking. I was gonna get, an extra government grant for every year that I worked full-time hours as a nurse. I would get 1 year's tuition back, which I'm like, perfect, this is fantastic." And so started working up in this teeny tiny little town of like less than 5,000 people. And it was just one nurse for emerge and one nurse, so one RN with two RPNs or LVNs on the floor. And the floor was maybe 12, 14 beds. And there was nothing much else. That was one hallway.
Let me just say, I'm
It
sorry,
was
but that's
not.
perfect. Why? It's so slow. It's slow. That's a
Mm.
perfect
It would be. It theoretically would be had the bullying not been so pervasive that it got
job.
really bad. I hated it. Ended up sticking out 5 years, but it just was awful. The culture itself was horrific. I was a southerner, a southerner coming up to Northern Ontario and why are you here and you don't get us and it's a whole different thing and I'm like, I'm sorry,
Where are you from originally again? Can you tell me
Cambridge,
what?
Ontario, like, it's Southwest
Hello?
Ontario. Like, it's not
How much
but it's not Northwest Ontario.
California? Like,
It's
I can get
not.
it if you came from California, because I'm from California. I can see how they can go, you Westerners, you
Yes,
know?
yes. See, like, what are you thinking about? So, I never quite fit in, never quite made friends who didn't backstab me in behind the
They were like Mean
scenes.
Girls. Was it like
Oh,
Mean Girls? Like,
1000%,
legit?
1000%.
Do you think that that's a cope? Was just like okay? Can I ask you a question? Do you
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that that corporate culture in that particular environment was just because of the people that were in charge, or do you feel as though that that is something that is like across most nursing kind of things, or what?
No, I think it was unique because it was so small. I mean, as you walked from the floor down to emerge, you passed by the CEO's office and it was always open and you waved to him. You're like, how's it going? And, off you go. So, and when I complained to my immediate supervisor about this bully, who again was kind of also a supervisor, thinking nothing more of it to be like, oh, hey, I'm just saying I'm having a rough time with her. And she seems to be like she's on my ass all the time. And I don't understand why. And all I kept getting was, "Oh, that's just her. That's just her. She's been grandfathered in, she's got 35, 40 years experience at this point and just her attitude was awful and she picked on everybody. You're just kind of the deal of the week because you're the newest one." I'm like, "Great. How long is this going to last?" Well, it's not like it wasn't known. Oh, the only way that I'm going back up to that town, voluntarily is to make sure that when she does pass away, that she's in the casket is kind of how bad it was. So, that was my introduction to nursing. I thought, "You know what? God, this is nuts. This is not what I thought it was. This is not what my clinical placements felt like. I don't understand what's going on." So, by the time my husband and I got married, I said, "You know what? I can't have kids up in this town because there's no opportunities for them. They theoretically can't even get enough high school credits to graduate within the Ontario standards. because there's not enough
Crazy.
teachers and all these kind of things. So I'm like, we just got to go. So we ended up, I got a job in an ER in a stroke center, and it was just, I couldn't have been happier to quit that job and to go in and in the exact same outfit that I wore to interview in 5 years later. And I walk back in, I'm just like, so thank you so much. It's been a learning experience. But I'm this is my 2 weeks notice, and
Do
uh
this.
see ya, like, deuces, I'm out. And just very, and I could have gone on a rant and a rave, but I was very polite about it. I said, "You know what? No matter what, this was my start in emergency nursing, and I'm continuing in emergency nursing and this, that, and the other. And yeah, see ya." And so end up going back up to the nursing station, and I'm just like, "Oh, where is she? I know that she's here. She's here Monday to Friday. So like, where is she?" And I'm looking around, everyone's kind of looking at me going like, "Why are you in a dress and why are y'all dressed up and what's you're in heels? What's going on?" And I said, "Oh, I just put in my 2 weeks notice." So I'm just like, "Where is she? Where is she?" And of course, everybody knew who I was talking about, and they're just like, "Oh, she's somewhere." And so she comes whipping around the corner, and she goes, "Yeah, yeah, I know that you quit. See ya." And she's gone. I'm like, "Nice to work with you. See you
See,
later."
she'll never understand or learn that she drove you away because, I mean, a perfect job, I think, would be, not very busy and, I don't know, that's just me, but she just drove you away. And yes, she's somebody that won't learn from her mistakes. And it's going to happen again because you're going to get younger people coming out of school wanting to position and she's going
Yeah.
to drive them away.
We actually there was one night shift that we sat down and we figured in a town of less than 5,000 people, she'd driven away at least 12 nurses. 12 nurses, registered nurses in at least her 25, 30 or 35-year span at that hospital. And it's not like anybody didn't know that it was happening. So can't feel bad for him. I tried.
Well, you know what? No, things will change when she retires and she's probably already
Yes,
on her way out,
she is long retired. Her story is in the book. There is a very large piece of me that wants to just send her a signed copy. I'm trying to be the better person. I really am, but some days are harder than others.
She's your
And
arch nemesis. Every
I
book has
have
to have an arch nemesis.
the
Okay,
villain
no, I don't.
story.
Yes, I have an arch nemesis in my book as well. And I still love her because we were 3 years old. We all grew up together in the neighborhood, but she's the only one that I still call her my arch nemesis and she even defriended me. So I'm like on Facebook, she really doesn't like me, I guess. I'm like, what did
Oh,
I ever do to
jeez.
you? But it's one of those, when they think they're better than you and then they belittle you and they make you feel small because there's something about you that is very special and that's what they see and they don't like that. They're like, she can't be more special than me.
Yeah. They
So that's
can't
why
they
my
can't bring
villain.
themselves up, so they try to tear you down.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So good. You had a villain. Okay, I'm excited. So people out there should want to read your book just because this villain story is kind of juicy.
It's a decent one, it really is,
Yeah.
and, I continue to wonder if the book has made the rounds, through town, because usually gossip like that goes through like wildfire.
You know what? I didn't call the person by name in my book. I called her
Neither did
Kay,
I. Yeah.
even though her name is meow. I can't really say what her name is, but uh, she yeah, she it's so funny. But I
What,
called her Kay.
you don't wanna, heaven forbid anything come back and blow back at you, like a defamation case or something like that, so
Right,
I
right,
don't
right,
need to name you by name. Those who
right.
are living in the town, everybody
Everybody
knows
that lives
who
in the neighborhood, yes.
knows
Everybody
exactly
that
who
lives
you
in the
are.
neighborhood, everybody that knows and that was involved with the whole situation knows who this person is. And you even say, oh, so sorry, my phone. You even say, hey, this is, I'm going to call her this. And, just so you know, this isn't her name. But,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
anyways, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. My phone just rang and I'm going to try to turn it
yeah.
off so this doesn't happen again.
That's
I swear
life.
I have
That's just it.
steps. Yeah, I have steps that oh my God, it won't even turn on now. I have steps that I do it, I'm all mute, 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 all my
Yep.
computers, all my phones, all my everything. And then this one, I'll just throw it over here. Hopefully it won't ring
Gotta love
again.
it. Gotta love it.
It won't turn on for me, so I can't fix it. Really sorry. Okay, so we have so now you moved on to the stroke center,
Yep.
right? Is
Bigger
that in the same
center.
town or is it you have to move?
No, we moved, like, back down to Southern Ontario. And so we were about an hour, hour and a bit from my parents and where I'd grown up, and it just was like a nice, decent sized city and lots of access to all sorts of things, and it was just so wonderful. And the people were so fantastic. I mean, really, they could have been awful, and I was just so happy to get out of that previous situation that it wouldn't have mattered. But it just was the cherry on top that they were so wonderful. And, I talked to most of them still. I haven't worked there for God, I think I did 2 shifts after once COVID started, but I had to leave after that just because we again moved towns. And, like, it was everything I needed getting out of that situation, and all of a sudden,
How did you get through COVID? How was that for you, if you don't mind
alcohol.
me asking?
So much alcohol. Oh
Oh,
my
funny.
god. It was bad. It was not great.
So
COVID,
you're ER. You see
I'm
it
ER.
all in the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
no, or you're ER, but now you're in your stroke center. I mean, you got
So
all
I'd
the
I'd
old people
moved away
with
from the stroke
COVID.
center, yeah, moved to a different town,
Okay.
we
Now
with a
you're
different
back in the ER.
back in the ER, different health system entirely. Had jumped
Okay.
around to a couple other ERs kind of locally, but then found myself in the ER that I'm still at. And COVID strikes, and we're all just kind of looking at each other going like, "What is this? What is happening?" And
And it started worse and worse and worse and worse, and
well,
then you're like, I mean, I don't know what it was like in your environment, but you could see on TV they were dropping people in body bags outside the
yeah,
back door because it was
yeah.
just too much.
So in Canada, in Ontario, in Southern Ontario, we were exceedingly lucky that we didn't get hit nearly as hard as you guys did. Again, we didn't have the volume, like we've got like what, 1/5 of the population in total that you guys do. So we didn't have the population, but I mean, we were so strict. We closed the borders. The borders were closed for months and months and months. We did the bubble thing. We isolated for forever and a day. We then did the bubble after about 6 months. We did the bubble system where you had, a couple people in your bubble. We were still not allowed to like jump from hospital to hospital because they didn't want us potentially transmitting from hospital to hospital. It took
Yeah.
a year or 2 before we finally stopped. Oh no, it took at least 2 years before we stopped masking in hospital. And it
With
it
my husband
was
too,
it was
like
different.
he he had to wear a mask for, like, forever, like, a
Yeah,
lot longer than normal people,
yeah,
probably
yeah,
longer than you probably did because we're California.
yeah.
We're like,
Well, no,
we're
you
like
we
real
listen, California and Canada are like one and the same. We joke that, when we were gonna be the 51st state, we were just gonna, "No, no, 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 we're gonna come down, we're gonna encompass," what was it? I
right.
think it was, like, California for sure, and, like, a little bit of Minnesota and Boston and, like, all these we're just gonna take the outer edge, it'll be fine. You guys, we're
My
cool.
husband for the first 3 months of COVID, when COVID was a real thing, and then I actually started to be remote. I think it was March from my job. Around that time, Doug would sleep on the couch,
Yeah,
and he would change in the garage, and then
yep.
he'd go shower, and then he'd sleep on the couch. And he says, "We just can't be in the same room, like sleeping together," because he goes, "I don't want to give you this or whatever." And believe it or not, we didn't get COVID, him or I, either one of us, until 2 years, 2.5 years later. We
Yeah,
finally got it. We
yep.
both were really sick. For 2 weeks, we just laid it up. I mean, it wasn't like the strand that came out
No.
initially. We had
No,
an
no, no.
easy strand, and then we just, but it hit me harder than him. But we were up for 2 weeks, and we enjoyed that 2 weeks on the couch.
Yeah, and same
But it
thing, same thing. Like, so my husband's infection control, so he was working in a hospital, I was working in a hospital. We didn't have daycare, so, like, I was up all day with the kids and then up all night at work and then up all day with the kids, so I was out to left
right.
field.
I
But
don't know
yeah,
what I
that
would have
was the
done had
fear, was
we
like,
did.
"Am I gonna give this to my kids?"
Right.
Yeah,
So what? Why did you decide to write Nursing Intuition? So
yeah.
what brought you on the writing part of your journey? How did that start?
So when COVID hit and, everything shut down, we had a bunch of lawyers actually come forward and say, "Hey, we're going to try and donate our services. We want to write everybody's wills for free." And looking back, you're like, "Oh, that's lovely. They just want everybody to be prepared." In the moment, it was, oh my God, we're not expected to survive. So it really shook us. It shook me to my core. I was like, oh my God, I'm already sleep deprived. I'm anxious. I'm way depressed. I'm
So,
out of
like,
my
this was in the
mind.
mid of all of this was in the beginning or in the
This
mid
was at the very beginning. So I think we were 3, 4 weeks in, and obviously there was no sign of anything letting up, and you're like, what's happening?" And here are these, lovely lawyers who come, "Oh, we just wanna do your wills for free." We're like, "Holy shit, we're gonna die. Okay, good to know." So I came home and, I'm out of my mind with sleep deprivation. The kids were 4 and 5.5 at this point, so they're, like, toddling around, kinda, like, getting into everything, and you're just like, I have no idea what's happening. And so I said, I worry that, like, if I were to die, how would I let my kids know that I chose to continue to go to work? Like, why I how do I explain that to them that that's what I wanted to do? And so I thought, you know what, like, maybe I'll just write down a couple of my, like, really good nursing stories, the times I was there to help. And so I kind of wrote a couple down, and I was at such a low point that my threshold for holding back all the rest of the trauma was gone. So, you finish off these couple of good stories, and all of a sudden it's 14 years worth of trauma and death and not knowing what was happening, and fear, and like everything pouring out. So it was like story after story after story about all these different things that had happened to me in my career. And I kind of took a minute after everything had come out, after, 4 weeks of just writing. And I took a step back and I go, okay, what the hell do I do with this now? And I'm like, "Okay, well, I don't really know if I want my kids to hear these stories, but, they're written down." So I was listening to, Llewellyn, who's a metaphysical publisher in the States. They were having online book fairs, and so authors would come on and talk about their books and promote their books. It was such a cool experience. And one book that had come on was Intuition at Work. And I'm like, "Intuition at work? I use my intuition all the time at work." And it was such a light bulb moment that I'm like, "Holy crap, that's it. That's the connection." And so I went back through all of my stories, and every single one had this thread of intuition and trusting my gut. And, okay, I trusted my gut. Was I believed? Was I not? Did I say anything or not? And what had happened? And so it kind of pieced together that, oh my God, this is the what this is supposed to be about. And I kind of sat back, and at the time it was about August 2020, and I'm like, the misinformation, disinformation of everything was really starting to ramp up. And I'm like, I think I'd be risking my license if I published this without peer-reviewed based science behind it. I think it would just it wouldn't have the weight that it could if there was science behind it. And I'm like, what are the chances that there's anything that's available? So I went on to a Google search, and not only was there so much information about intuition, and peer-reviewed evidence-based science about it, but intuition in nursing specifically. And I'm like, holy shit, this is it. This is it. I'm like, okay, so we're taught, if it's evidence-based, science-backed, whatever, doesn't matter what your viewpoint is, you need to be teaching it, you need to be adopting it into practice. And I'm like, okay, like, I know that I use my intuition at work all the time. I know I've had conversations with other nurses through the years, and we all kind of agree on the same thing, but it's a very hush hush, 3 a.m. kind of conversation that we all come to. Whereas now we should be talking about this. We should be teaching it. We should be embracing it, because really this is something that can have huge impact on patient outcomes.
Yeah, that's actually I just think that, first of all, we're all meant to write our stories down.
Yes.
And also because it's funny how you mentioned your kids, kind of like you wanted to let them know, like, this is what I went through, why I did nursing. This is kind of my story. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote my book, because I too wanted my kids to, like, know a little bit about their mom if I ever was to leave. When I'm gone, they can, my book is out and they haven't read it. So most likely they will read it when I'm gone.
Gotta love it. I mean,
I
my
know.
kids are the same. They're just like, "Oh, you published a book? Big deal." And this is my, like,
Like,
8-year-old at the time. I'm
take
like,
pictures.
"You have no idea how big of a deal this is." Like, I was accepted by a traditional publisher, and then they backed out after we finally moved into editing 2 years later. I'm like, "You have no idea why this is such a big
Oh,
deal."
okay, so tell me a little bit about your process. Okay, so
Yeah.
you had a publisher or an
Yes.
editor? What you
So, I had a publisher. So applied to publishing houses, big, small, all this kind of thing. And if anybody's ever looked into how to get a book published, like it is a process and a half. Everybody wants the same information, but in slightly different ways and in slightly different things. So when you're submitting these packages, you can't just bulk package. Send click, send click, send click to all these publishers. Like you have to make sure it's personalized to that publishing house, and you have to make sure you're applying to publishing houses that publish something similar. Otherwise, you're completely wasting your time. And then it takes them 3 to 6 months to a year to get back to you, even with a rejection. So it's a
Yeah, I didn't go that
ridiculously slow
route.
process. Oh,
I didn't go that route, but I wish I would have, because if
yes.
I put the work in, I went through like a hybrid kind of
Yes.
mine is
Yeah.
Christian faith publishing, and it's
Okay.
you put a little money into it, and then
Mhm.
they go to town with everything else,
Yeah. Yeah.
and but it's not like, and you don't get very much. I mean, I'm not gonna make this. I'm not making money on the book. Put it that way.
No.
Um,
One
but
Once
it's
you figure out that you're not going to make money off the book, if you're just making the book and writing the book to have it out there, to have your story out there, to be an author, great.
right.
Self-publishing, you're gonna put in 6 to 10K roughly to publish it yourself, to find your own editor, to find your own typesetter. Didn't even know what a typesetter was. So people who design the interior of the book and how it looks, so it doesn't just look like you copy and
Yes.
pasted from Microsoft
The
Word.
font sizes is the thing. The font
Oh,
sizes
the
and
font
space
sizes, the
between
design,
letters.
then there's cover, then there's,
In my cover.
PR. I had designed my cover, it was awful. I'm glad that I actually got someone off of Upwork to design it for me, but $250 on Upwork, which was not bad comparatively
That's
speaking
not
for a
bad.
cover.
Shit, that's
But,
really good.
paying for, author success programs on how to kind of really navigate Amazon and how to use keywords and how to, do
There's a
things
lot
like
of
this, that,
research.
and that. There's a ton of programming and things that could help you get to that, Amazon #1 bestseller for a split second. Capture the screenshot and then off you go and you'll never be #1 again kind of thing.
No,
But it's
right.
it's
I'm writing a
interesting.
book too. I mean, I'm writing another book. My first was a memoir, of course, and then this one is, and you're gonna think it's funny, but I'm writing a romance novel about an ER nurse and I know, and a hot,
Listen,
steamy, and a hot hold on, and a hot, steamy, fire chief.
thank you. As long as it's not the physician, we've had enough of that.
No.
It's
No,
overdone.
he's a fire chief.
We will
He's a
that
hot Minty.
falls within, our, don't fall for the what do we tell new grads? Don't fall for the 4, Ps. Police, um, paramedics, porters, so the people who porter people in the hospital, and firefighters.
Oh, so I'm not supposed to we're not supposed to do
We're
it?
not supposed to, because it's so that's who we end up with.
Okay.
It's just kind of funny that that's the people that we end up with. My husband used to be a paramedic, so I can't judge because I fell for it too.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm hoping that people will, nurses will relate. And it's
Listen,
and the very first chapter, it's so steamy and hot, and oh my lord, it does get to a point where I'm like, shut the door.
yes.
Like, I can't read this
Just
out loud.
can people
Where my
hear my
kids can
thoughts
hear.
right now?
Yeah.
Well, if you need a subject matter expert, you let me know. You send me the draft.
Yeah.
I will read it. We'll make sure it reads like an ER nurse.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, I watched a lot of ER. I just actually rewatched it for research.
Oh, love it.
I mean, I watched it from the beginning to the end,
Yeah.
and I've because I'm older than you, so I watched it when it was actually on TV. But then I watched it again, and I just loved it. I was like, God, I love that. And
Have you
then
seen The Pit?
yes, of course, love it. He doesn't has
Phenomenal.
not changed a bit. Yeah, it
Not
was
one
really good.
iota. Not one iota. He looks
Right, he's
20 times better
hunk.
now.
It's so funny is because the very first episode of VR, it's him as like an intern, and he's just I just watched The Pit, and then I started watching ER right after. And I'm like, oh, he's such a baby.
I
Like, and
know.
then I looked it up. He was only 23 years old when he started ER.
My god.
So what a baby! Like that's like my
Come
son's
so
age.
long. Come so long.
Oh, we digress. Anywho, so let's go back. Let me ask you a question about
Yeah.
COVID. Do you think that
Yes.
it's going through what you had to go through with COVID, do you think it changed like the culture of nursing,
Oh, yeah.
like personally and like professionally?
Yeah. We all got to a point where we got fed up. And so, we were playing playing bouncer a lot of the time. No, sorry, you can't come into the ER to see your loved one. There's nobody allowed at the bedside, or there's only one person allowed at the bedside, or, so we had to play bouncer a lot of times. We had to ask people if they were vaccinated, and we all know how loaded that question is now, let alone when, again, August 2020, misinformation, disinformation was really starting to ramp up. I would just get so verbally accosted with that question, minute to minute. It was just sickening. So I stopped asking before they said that we could stop asking. Because really, if you were coming into the ER and you were having cough, fever, shortness of breath, I was going to isolate you anyways. It made no difference whether or not you had the vaccine or not. Um, in that moment, you still needed to be seen by a doctor. You still need to be seen by a nurse. You still need to be assessed. You still were going to come into the ER. So I was like, you know what? That's not really changing any process. The only thing it's changing is how badly I'm getting abused every single second of the day. So I stopped
Feel like
asking.
if they had the if you had the shot, your case of COVID might not be as
Yeah.
extreme, and
Yeah.
so it's good information to know for you because you might, like, am I going to be needing intubate this person eventually, or is this person might be able to not, like, it's not going to be such a severe case, or
Yeah.
you have to be extra careful for the ones that didn't get it,
When that was a whole
but
other.
my thinking. That's just my thing. I mean, I'm not a nurse, so
So
that's my
in
blonde wisdom.
when we first started having access to the vaccines, it just was, okay, well, I don't need to maybe worry about how infectious you could, like, the thought process at the time was, if you'd been vaccinated and you potentially were coming in with COVID-like symptoms, maybe you weren't as infectious as maybe somebody who was coming in with COVID-like symptoms who hadn't had the vaccine. At the time, that was our kind of rationale. Whether or not that actually holds any weight, I have no idea. But again, we treated you no differently, whether you had the vaccine or not, as in your care. But unfortunately, you screaming at us that you were anti-vax and went on your tirade. Unfortunately, that tainted me as to how much I'm going to engage with you, how much I'm going to come in and check on you. Like, it changed my perception, which unfortunately left me at a disadvantage. And unfortunately, like, it's
And
just.
and the patient too,
And the
because
patient,
if
yeah.
if they come in with, like, they're all, crazy in the head, it's like, well, good on you then.
Yeah,
You know
and
what
it's
I
just
mean?
like, again, okay, well, have a seat in the waiting room. What? Duh, 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 and you're like, have a seat in the waiting room. It changes nothing. Like, sorry,
Right, right.
it is what it is.
So, can I ask you a question? I mean, for those moms out there that might be thinking about trying to get into nursing, because I know this is a lot of times, moms want to do something where they can be off for certain days and on, and it helps with your daycare sometimes.
Yes.
How is, like, balancing motherhood and being in an ER career? How has that been for you?
It's hard, right? Like, I'm
Yeah.
very lucky in the fact that my husband works Monday to Friday, 8 to 4. So we have that stable, constant schedule where now I just have to kind of work around his schedule. I mean, we had daycare for a long period of time. Thank God for daycare. It allowed me to work, all the shifts. And it's only within the last 2-3 years that unfortunately daycare kind of phased us out. They wanted to have more young kids, so they phased out the older school age kids, or that program. So you
Are we
can't
going to be
find
back
daycare.
to latch? Are we going to latchkey our kids again? How old are your kids?
100%. Almost 10 and 11 and a half. We a
I
thousand
mean,
percent are going to latchkey our kids again.
I was that
You
age.
can't not. You can't not. Like,
If
I.
you're a responsible little kid, if you have a kid that's responsible,
Yeah.
my brothers and sisters were, it's not, except for me who ran away when I brought my key and I ran away. It's in my book, but I I ran away from home because my mom was gonna take my bird away because I had a parakeet and she wanted to get rid of the bird because I wasn't feeding it, I guess. And I don't know, there was just a lot of reasons, but I ran away from home on my 10 speed. And it didn't last very long, but I did
Never
get pretty
does.
far. I got about miles away.
That's all right.
So
No,
yeah,
like,
I was
I
like,
think we'll definitely latchkey our kids again because, like, honestly, I mean, right now, without daycare, I have to work straight nights. I can't work day shift. I can't day shift starts at 7 AM, so that means I have to be out of the house at 6. My husband has to leave at 7:30. The kids don't get on the bus till 9. So, they are not nearly they're getting there. My daughter, thank God, is better than my son, and she's a younger one. But you it's constant, "Hey, have you had breakfast? Hey, are you dressed? Hey, have you packed your lunch? Hey, have you packed your lunch? Hey, have you packed
right.
your lunch?
And
Do you have
I
water?"
bet you
Like,
have mommy guilt, right? You have a lot of
oh,
mommy guilt.
so
I mean,
much. So much.
right,
I
right.
every time that there is, an adult who comes in and somehow we get talking about their mom's a nurse, and I'm like, "Hey, what's your damage so I know what to prepare my kids for because I know that I'm doing damage. I know that shift work and only being home sometimes and then picking up shifts at last minute and being so flimsy and coming home and saying goodnight when it's morning, it's and having a glass of wine in the morning. I'm sure that's going to mess them up. Like I have no doubts. So I'm just
Okay, so
I'm always
do you deal
curious.
with burnout? I mean, as a nurse, I know burnout is like a real term, right? I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
when did you realize or have you ever did you experience burnout
Oh yeah.
like
COVID
in your
COVID
career?
killed me. COVID killed me.
COVID killed you.
COVID killed me. If I thought that I had been potentially burned out previously, just you kind of get into the grind, you get a little short with people, you're not getting as much satisfaction out of your job or helping people, and everything somebody says just irritates you. You're kind of getting close. It's time to take a step back, maybe swap lines or maybe swap departments, like go somewhere else if you've got the opportunity to try something different where it's challenging you. So if I thought that that previously was burnout, COVID very quickly, put that to
But I
rest to be
guess,
like,
I
no."
guess it's true. Like if you look at your career now, and as you get further down, you're like, oh no, this is nothing compared to what I went through COVID. Like this
Yes.
is a cakewalk compared to that. Like you kind of
Everything
can, you kind
everything is comparable. Now it's like, "Oh, well, I'm sleeping, so I really can't complain." Like, that's the line now is, "Well, I've slept
yeah.
6 hours in the last day, so I really shouldn't complain because I went days without sleeping and somehow still went to work and stayed up all day with the kids and somehow functioned is a very loose term for what I was doing in 2020. A loose term for many of us, but it was so like, I have never been to a point where, the depression was so, so bad that I finally got on medications, had never been on antidepressants before, probably should have. Like, looking back, I'm like, "Oh, there were points in my life where I probably could have benefited from antidepressants," but my parents are like, "Oh, depressants, antidepressants, you're who needs
No,
those?
no, no.
People aren't
Hey,
mentally
you just
tough anymore."
after my was it my son or my daughter or both? I think it was after my daughter or maybe my son. I just I don't know if it was postpartum or whatever, but after I was done breastfeeding him, I started Zoloft is what
Yeah.
the brand was back
God
then.
bless Zola. Oh, no, I was on Paxil. Paxil, oh, God bless those people. I can't even.
And I got to a point and I was taking it my husband, I told him after a while, he didn't know and I told him after a while I go, "Yeah, I've been taking that Zoloft." And he goes, "That's why there." He was like, "Oh, I see."
Oh, it
And
all
I was
makes
like, "What?"
sense now.
Yes, now I know why you're so nice and sweet, and I was like, "What the hell?" And then after a while, I said, "I don't think I need it anymore," and I got off of it, and it wasn't. But I mean, I probably was on it like not even less than a year. I know that, way less than a year, and I just felt like I got over the little hump, and it worked for me. And but it did make me gain weight. I was like, "Oh, I don't like that part
Oh,
of
no.
it," but trade offs. I stayed married. I stayed married. That's all that matters.
True story. True story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and PSA to the antidepressants, just as an FYI, it can take up to 6 weeks for your antidepressants to fully kick in, just as a heads
A
up, so that
while,
you're
like, I
not
think it
you're
could take
not expecting, like, an immediate turnaround, but it can take up
right,
to 6 weeks if it's the right one, and
because
you may need to swap.
it builds up in your system, and it was a while. I think I had maybe been on it for 3 months or so. I don't remember how long it was when I finally told him that, like, because 'cause I'm gaining weight and I had to blame it on something, and so I told him it was the Zoloft. He's
Like,
like,
"So."
"Oh." That's why everything's been
Yeah.
so nice. Um, I don't know. I used to be mean. Sometimes I guess I was, I don't know why. And I look back and I'm like, why was I so mean? Like, I don't know. I'm
Just
lucky that my husband loves
listen,
me.
postpartum is rough. Like, it is
Yeah.
rough. Nothing makes you wanna take birth control more than having a child. Oh my god. I love my
That's
kids, but,
probably why,
like, holy Hannah, it was rough.
that's probably why,
Nothing your whole idea of yourself is rocked to its core by all of a sudden there's this person that's latched onto you physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, like the whole bit, and your whole world turns on a dime, and you're going, "Oh, this is something else. This is what they were talking
yeah.
about."
I think it's probably why God gave me children every 8 years. Because he's like, no, 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 it's time to recover. Another, no,
Oh,
no, 8 years.
why
Give her
and
8 years. And then
Elise was a year and a half almost to the day of Wyatt and asked me if she was planned. She was not, but she's a Spitfire. And obviously it was her time because she was choosing that. But I mean, it was chaos. And coming from an ER nurse that's saying something, it was chaos having, 2 under 2 and all this kind of stuff. But once we finally made it out of the baby aisle, like we were out of the baby aisle and it was just like, "Oh, thank God we never have to do this again."
yeah, 2 and done. I mean, I have a
2 and done.
stepdaughter, so I have 3, but I mean, I
Oh,
didn't give birth to her, but the teenage years was like giving birth.
don't
She lived with
don't
us.
scare me.
Oh my
They're
lord.
coming,
Okay.
they're coming.
And then, they do more when they're in teenagers are like, they have sports, they have flag, they have
Oh,
drama, they have choir,
friends,
they
they have
have all these
jobs.
things.
Oh,
Yes, and they need transportation everywhere. So just FYI. Um, so hey, you were talking about chaos as a nurse. And trusting your gut is like important, right? Your intuition.
it's everything.
What does listening to your intuition actually look like in practice? Like, give me a scenario maybe
Yeah.
where we can
So,
apply
I
it.
mean, you've already done it. Women, everybody above the age of 12 as a woman knows exactly what this feeling feels like. You walk into a bar, you see a guy across the room, you're just like, absolutely not. It's just an absolute no. They haven't said anything, they haven't done anything. They may have made eye contact or not, but you just innately absolutely not. That's a no-go. There's something up with them. And it's a self-preservation thing. That when we put it into those terms, we trust that implicitly. The creep factor, the danger vibe, absolutely not, you know. But when you take it into nursing practice, it's more of, well, why do I feel like I'm missing something in this patient's story? Or why do I feel like I'm not getting the full picture as to what's happening? Or I think my patient's really not doing so well and maybe their vital signs are fine, but they don't look good. Like their skin's either gray or green, they're sweaty, they're anxious, they're on oxygen, but they keep ripping it off. As soon as they start doing the oxygen pull, you're like, oh, this is not going to go well. They start doing things that are basic instincts that it's their baser system is overwhelming them, and this
They're all
it's not
in
them
some
doing it.
way.
It's they're just
Yeah.
trying to react because their body is shutting down. And so once you figure out that there's more to just vital signs as to what's going on with a patient, it's everything. You're at triage, you're hearing a story and you're just like, I don't know about you. And you don't know where it's coming from. There's nothing maybe even to really indicate that you're missing a key part of the story, for how long they've actually been sick for, or if they've got any past history or if they're on any medications. Like, and again, some people are very embarrassed as to why they're in emerge and they can't tell you the whole story because we're triaging them in front of an entire room of people. And they won't tell you what's going on. And so the story changes from triage to the primary nurse to the doc. It's one of those things where you have to kind of always be on your toes for things to change. You can't just sit back and assume that everything's going to be fine because chances are it's not going to be if you have that viewpoint. If you kind of think like, okay, like let me just kind of keep an ear out and an eye out. And so you get that gut feeling that's like a heaviness. It's kind of a pit in your stomach. And you're just like, why did that feeling happen all of a sudden when I like saw this person or I went to go assess them or I heard a part of their story or I heard a family's part of the story that is completely different from the patient's side of the story. You're like, what is happening? Like there's such a disconnect that I'm missing something, and be curious about it. Why am I feeling like this way? What
Kind
is
of
it
like a
about this
mystery.
patient? It's absolutely a
It's like
mystery.
a
It's always a
yeah,
mystery. And that's part of the fun of Emerge is figuring out the mysteries, right? Somebody comes in sick, you want to fix it, you want to help them, you want to make them feel better. And when there's that extra element of a mystery, you're like, "Oh, now I'm really involved." So if I'm your nurse and I'm in seeing you like every half an hour to an hour, I'm constantly in there asking you questions and working on things and in and out, you don't want that. That means that there's something more going on and that things aren't looking good. You don't want to see me. So, it's being able to come to terms with your body knows more about what's going on. It's recognizing patterns that you may not be logically aware of that you're processing, right? Like you are processing information constantly, just as a functioning human being. So your brain is picking up on a pattern like, oh, maybe I've seen this type of presentation in a patient before and things did not go well. My body is picking that up before my mind is consciously putting it together. So it's like, okay, well, my body's cueing me that something more is happening. Why is my body cueing me? Sometimes it's just questions, right? So I'll be at triage and I'm asking my typical questions as to why someone's coming in, and all of a sudden questions are popping into my head that I'm going to go a different route than I normally would with my triage. And typically, like triage, you've got 5 minutes to figure out if somebody's sick, not sick, really sick. And so if all of a sudden I'm deviating from my standard questions, that means that something else is going on. You're coming in for pain because you've got a new cancer diagnosis and you were told that, when that happens, you're supposed to come into Emerge. Young guy comes in, we're doing triage, I triage him, and it's 6 in the morning, and all of a sudden I'm like, "So, how are you coping?" Something I would never that kind of open-ended question I would never ask at triage. It's too open, and people could go on tangents, and I can't afford for people to go on tangents when potentially there are more people waiting to be triaged. But there's nobody else
right,
there, and it's 6 in the morning. I'm like, "So how are you coping?" And he goes, "Well, I'm alright, and I feel okay. This is the first time I've had pain." I said, "Okay." You know, but like, have it's pancreatic cancer. I know pancreatic cancer is like 3 months and done is kind of the rule. So, for you to be coming in and you're a month into your diagnosis and you look pretty good, how are things going? Have you started to make plans yet? Have you thought about your death? Have you thought about your funeral? Have you thought about maybe leaving, he had young kids because he was only 30s, 40s. Have you thought about leaving notes for your kids or doing things like that? Like planning for when you're gone. And he and I had this great conversation about death cafes, and so you can go to they're all over the world, but it's mainly people who work in industries who encounter death all the time. So nurses, paramedics, fire, funeral directors, physicians, like all sorts of people. And so you can come together and talk about death in a very kind of matter of fact way. And it's just something that happens and we see it all the time. So it's not really as taboo for us, but for somebody coming in off the street who thinks death, I can't talk to my wife about this. She's still in the mindset of we got to fight, we got to fight, we got to fight. And I'm coming to the mindset of I'm starting to come to terms with my reality of what's happening, and I want to try and talk to her, but she's not ready to talk and I don't know if she's going to be ready to talk. So we had this huge conversation at 6 in the morning, and he, ended up finished getting registered. He saw the doc, he was in and out. It was great. But and here's all the rest of my coworkers behind me and they're all like sniffling. I'm like, What? They're like, where did that come from? Like, what happened? Like, why did you do that? I'm like, what did I do? They're like, why would you start asking those questions? And I'm like, well, because it felt like those questions needed to be asked. And really,
right,
I can almost guarantee you that he potentially got more from talking with me than getting, very basic starter pain medications. Like,
right.
I think
And you know
I
what?
might have done something.
Well, I think that people are put in each other's path for a reason, and you were the right person in that moment for him. And he'll, he's going to move on and do the things that he needs to get prepared for, because you sparked it in him to like, oh crap, I got to get started on that.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Because my husband, he also works, like when they get out of the emergent, or when they get out of surgery, he's the guy that gets you up standing and walking around and stuff. And he deals with families and patients, and they're not always the nicest.
No.
What advice, what advice do you have for families that are with the patient, and for the patient too, that how can they better support the nurses? Is it just freaking be kind? I mean, that's
Honestly.
simple.
Is, understand that there is a lot of wiggle room within the healthcare system. There's a lot of wiggle room as to how much I stick my neck out for you. There's a lot of wiggle room as to how fast things happen. And so if you're going to come into a situation, and again, it's different if you're coming into a situation, you're scared, you're not knowing what's going to happen, you're in pain. Like we do, um,
Difference in attitude.
we explain those away in an instant, like you're under the influence of drugs, it's not yourself, whatever. Like we deal with a lot and we understand when somebody is just in this situation scared, so they're mean. We get that. That's a normal everyday thing. If you were coming into a situation and you're cussing me out, you're calling me names, you're saying that I'm
And it-
racist, you're screaming at me, guess what? I am not gonna be in any mood to
Right,
go the extra mile for you. I'm gonna need to do what I do, and that's what I do, but I'm not gonna go above and beyond. Like, guess what? Like, I'm gonna do the
right.
absolute minimum of what I have to do to keep my license and to make sure that you're cared for, but I'm not gonna go and get you a warm
No,
blanket. I'm not gonna make sure that you get a social work referral for your loved one. I'm not gonna make sure that take extra time to talk to the doctor to make sure that all your medications are right at home to save you a potentially an extra visit here. Like, I'm not
right.
gonna go above and beyond. And that's just
No pillow service.
no, the H doesn't stand for Hilton.
Mint on the pillow, no chocolate on
No,
the pillow, no nothing like that. You're gonna get the bare
I
minimum. Can I ask you
I
a question?
can't.
I wanna make sure that we get across the message of your book, because I
Okay.
want people to go out, and especially nurses, but I want people to go out and buy your book. Give me, like, your elevator pitch. What is it about your book that we wanna get across to the viewers or
Yes.
listeners?
Nursing intuition is evidence-based practice, and it is so supported by science that we really need to start teaching it. And theoretically, if you trust your intuition, if you correct a situation before it turns into a catastrophic one, you potentially don't have to carry that guilt with you. And you potentially don't have that patient loss to carry with you. Simple.
Yeah, you
If
don't need to, like, it doesn't need to be a notch on your, like,
no,
okay, another slash.
if
I
I
mean,
could get away from the amount of people that I carry with me on a daily the number of patients and families that I carry with me on a daily basis, and thankfully it is not a ton. There's maybe a handful that I carry close. Um, if I could have prevented those situations, you better damn well believe I would have.
right. Okay, so where can people find your book? Do you have a website that they can go to?
Yeah, so it's on Amazon, it's in Barnes& and Nobles, it's on, Indigo for the Canadian peeps. You can find it on Amazon, Nursing Intuition, or just search Jennifer A. Johnson, RN. Again, there's a lot of Jennifer Johnsons. I had to kinda stand out a little bit. My website is www.nursejenn.ca. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at ernurse.jen, Jenn, and on LinkedIn, where I'm probably the most active, Jennifer Johnson, BSCNRN.
And also, if you go to my website, jesssayin.net, that's JESSSAYING.net. You go to podcast, you select it, scroll down to this episode, click on Jen Johnson's name, and it'll take you straight to her website. I just want to say thank you, Nurse Jen Johnson,
Thank you.
for coming on to Jeff saying. I mean, you were a wealth of information. I'm excited. I was excited about having you on, but I mean, I you did not disappoint. I mean, I learned a lot
My
more
God.
just through our conversation. It was exciting. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Thank you so much for having me.
And remember, everybody, be kind to one another because there's, only one life, one world, and someone's watching. All right. Take care.
Gather around when the sun dips low, talking about the days we used to know. VCR tapes and dial-up tones, raising kids living with achy bones. Leather jackets and big hair days, now it's carpool lines and PTA. Neon dreams turn into schoolyard fights, but our hearts glow in retro nights. We are Gen X, living both worlds. From cassette set tapes to a digital world. Parenting now with a nod to the past. The retro love we know will last. We are Gen X, living both worlds. From cassette tapes to a digital world. Parenting now with a nod to the past. The retro love we know will last. We dance to the beats of the boombox sound. Now bedtime stories echo all around. But deep inside we're the mixtape kings, still fighting life with arcade dreams. Feeding families with a pizza slice, telling tales with a side of advice, laughing at the way